the Landlord. The morning after the peaceful birthday trip in the wood, I woke up to a letter from my landlord. He wrote that he had to sell the house because that was the only way he could pay his debts to the tax authorities. He gave me a month to find out if I was willing and able to buy the house. If not, I would be on the street 3 months later. The letter came as something of a shock to me. I felt very attached to my living space. I felt it was my place. Over the years, I'd realised that it was the ideal place for me for many reasons. I've talked about the house earlier and just want to add a few things. My son was born in the house, and his placenta is buried in the garden with an oak tree planted on top of it. His placenta is buried only on this piece of earth, and he was born only in this house. In 1993, I spent a lot of time and money refurbishing the little house, my temple and studio. At that time, the owner had promised me that I could live there for at least 5 years. Unfortunately, I didn't get this in writing. That spring, I had spent a lot of time and resources building a beautiful playhouse for my daughter in a big plum tree in the garden. So now there was a little children's house with a balcony 2 meters above the ground with a woodshed beneath and the little bridge leading to a cabin in an apple tree, an eminent playground for children. For several years, I'd thought of the house I lived in and the garden as my place, but the price was enormous for me. The house cost almost 1 million Danish kroner, and my income was based on a little music teaching, supplementary unemployment benefit, and some gigs now and then, so I was far from wealthy. However, if I managed to buy the house, I could rent a part of it out, which would give me some extra income. I spent the first half of the month of May determining if I really wanted to buy the house. It was a huge decision, because to buy a house is a laborious, complicated and demanding process. But after a couple of weeks, I was in no doubt. This was my house. The following months were some of the most stressful I've ever experienced. I was really put to the test concerning my handling of the physical world. I think the month of May was probably the most hectic month of the year concerning music school arrangements and associated meetings, so the music school took up a big part of my time. Moreover, I and the other musicians in my rock band in Bloom had got our first record contract, and we had to record our first album immediately after the summer. This meant that we had to work really hard during the whole summer. We had to compose, arrange and pre-produce, that means record the whole album in a demo studio, to hear if it was good enough. I also had my children, who naturally needed my attention a lot of the time when they were at my place. If you have ever bought a house, you know what it takes to get through the bureaucratic procedures. It's a very demanding process, and as I mentioned, I only had 2 weeks left to find out if I was able to buy the house. I contacted my accountant and he set out the numbers. Everything was set out neatly, but the numbers themselves weren't good. My music was costing me money, and buying the house would give me considerable extra expenses. I put on a nice suit, grabbed a stylish briefcase and went to the offices of a major building society. Despite my long hair, I felt I made a good impression, because at first the employee I spoke to seemed positive. However, the next day he had a closer look at the numbers and turned me down flat. I went on to another building society, but got the same answer. I started getting nervous, and the doubt and insecurity troubled me. Time was running out, and I hadn't a clue what to do. Beside all this, I was starting to have extremely strong drug-free experiences. Since my experience with cosmic laughter and the sound of one hand clapping, plus a new psychological state that this has caused me to enter, I had had very easy access to psychedelic states without the use of drugs, and still have. Especially in the evening when I went to bed before falling asleep. I would enter states of consciousness similar to psilocybin mushroom trips. My whole organism would jerk. I would hear sounds, experience inner explosions, changes in the experience of time, visual changes and experiences of being 2 or more places at once, just to mention some of the phenomena. But in May 1995, these phenomena intensified so much that I had never before experienced anything like it. I think the extreme pressure and stress to my system and the fact that I was only sleeping 3 to 4 hours every night contributed to trigger these states. The states were characterised by my not knowing if I was on high dosage acid or psilocybin mushroom trip or not. I simply couldn't discriminate between having taken psychedelics and not, and this frightened me. Fortunately, the first couple of times it happened, I was sleeping with Bulida. This was an enormous support. One thing is to have such experiences after taking psychedelic drugs. Another thing is when they come unexpectedly. I will tell you about some of these experiences. 1. Sunday the 7th of May 1995. Horrifying worlds. I'm lying in bed with Bulida. I've sunk very deep into myself and enter a very powerful altered state of consciousness. I'm flying, rushing, travelling into other worlds of a very eerie character. I'm sucked further and further in. The experience is as strong as high-dosage sessions on powerful psychedelic drugs. This scares me because I'm not used to it. Now and then I return to the bedroom and the body of Bulida, which anchors me somewhat. I'm happy that she's there. It's difficult to tell how long this unusual state of consciousness lasts. It feels like an hour or two. 2. Monday, the 8th of May 1995. Spring flows through me. In the morning, I'm in a state quite opposite to the experience of last night. I fly through beautiful, paradisiacal worlds. Spring flows through me on all levels, and I fly through it. It's wonderful to lie here with Bulida. We are like the archetype of the lovers. It's very spiritual. It lasts for a long time, several hours, and I'm sky high. I think we lie there until around 11 a.m. I feel strange for the rest of the day, floating about. I cancel half of my teaching and go to my parents' house to sleep. I'm worn out. 3. Tuesday, the 9th of May, 1995. Mexico, 19th century, war. I'm up in a penthouse in a small town in Mexico in the 19th century. I'm together with many children, 20 to 40, and 2 other adults. We will soon be discovered and killed. This is our final hour. We try to make a diversion, consisting in one of us adults, a woman, going out and making disturbance. I cover her. I see her running out in the empty streets, and I have my pistol ready. A person approaches her to take her. I try to shoot, but the pistol doesn't work. There's no hope. She's lost. 4. Wednesday, the 10th of May, 1995. Strongly expanded body borders. I'm lying alone in my bed. I'm high, but I haven't taken anything. I'm calm. Suddenly, my body borders start to expand. My pulse starts beating faster. I'm going deeper and deeper into myself. My body borders expand to the Earth, then the solar system, then the whole galaxy, and finally I encompass the entire universe. I'm shaken. What's going on? My pulse is galloping, at least it feels that way. I try to do some yoga in bed to come down a little. I think of Jung and the 5 to 6 years he was far out. I understand him. Wow, it's really mind-blowing. 5. Saturday, 13th of May, 1995. The metal testicle. It's the middle of the night before Sunday. Once again, I enter the travel state. Dream and reality melt together. I lie in bed knowing where I am, but my conception of my testicle is changing a lot. One of my testicles feels like compressed metal. The varicose veins in my scrotum feels gigantic. It's much bigger than usual. It's as if it's blocked the blood supply to the testicle. I'm scared. Have I failed? I hardly dare reach down to take a feel. At last I do it. To my surprise, my testicle feels extraordinarily healthy. I could continue telling about similar experiences that I had until June, but it would take up too much space. I just hope I've given you an idea of what a high energy field I was in during this period. The combination of buying my house, recording an album, and these extraordinarily powerful experiences put me under such pressure that I was sometimes on the verge of succumbing to the pressure. In fact, I also sometimes collapsed, weeping with exhaustion. However, I've not yet talked about what taxed me most. My greatest fight was with my own doubt. Would this house-buying project succeed? Could I make it? My father refused to be my guarantor. That's understandable, though it would have saved me. I had no one else to turn to, so I was completely on my own. One thing was to get a building society to support the project. Another was to raise 100,000 krone in down payment. To me, this was an enormous amount of cash. Yes, I had doubts. At the same time, I knew this was the only thing I was not allowed to have. Here, the good old mutual therapy techniques entered the picture. I am, of course, referring to positive self-affirmations. At the end of the day, we are, on a very deep and fundamental level, mistress or master of our own life. However, it's very important to find out what we really want. Did I really want this house? Yes, on a deep, deep level, I felt I was meant to live there. This realisation was triggered by an experience I had from Saturday to Sunday, the 20th to the 21st of May 1995. However, before I tell you about this crucial experience, I want to shed light on this whole house building gestalt from an astrological point of view. In the month of March, April and May, I took more ecstasy, mushroom and acid than usual. It felt wild, but right. I worked at full speed, my diary was filled to the brim and my projects were successful. I felt that I had an extraordinarily strong plutonic force in me, which was extra strong in this period. In my birth chart, transiting Pluto, death rebirth, was directly square my MC, which represents objectives and manifestations in the external world. And Saturn was in the 10th house, also objectives and manifestations, on its way towards its initial position, which marks the end of a big life phase and the beginning of a new one. The first time transiting Pluto was exactly square my MC was at the end of November the previous year, more precisely 29th of November 1994. Exactly this day marked a dividing line in Anders and my work, where we started our project to complete all our compositions and choose material for our first album. It was serious work, marking an essential step towards realising our common project, the band in bloom. When finally, in the beginning of May, we mixed a tape with all our compositions down on a DAT tape recorder, I cried with redemption. Finally, I had, with my partner, finished a series of crucial compositions, which hopefully would become a musical success. The second time transiting Pluto was exactly square my MC was on the transition to June, just when I had to go to try to get approved by the Building Society. The third time was at the beginning of September, when I was about to take over the house. I didn't write so much in this period because my life was filled with work projects. However, this period of my life will always be very alive to me. I felt and experienced that my life moved in the right direction on all levels. I just had to follow the flow. Saturday, the 12th of May 1995. The seed of life. I don't sleep much these days, and the night before the trip I want to tell you about is no exception. I've arranged to take a trip with one of my good friends, Bo. We start in the evening at 7 o'clock. The trip ends on Sunday at 2 p.m. and takes more than 19 hours. In the course of this marathon trip, I take 8 ecstasy trips, 7 grams of psilocybin mushrooms, 4 LSD trips and smoke 4 to 5 joints, a completely out-of-hand amount of drugs. It doesn't feel wrong. It's as if my body can handle everything at the moment. I'm a little tired Monday, but my teaching goes well, and apart from this slight tiredness, I have no side effects at all. I take it as an experiment. How much can consciousness and the organism handle? In newspapers, magazines and leaflets from the Danish health authorities, much has been written about especially ecstasy. For for the experienced psychonaut who has read a broad selection of scientific literature and used this drug for years on his or her own body and discussed the experiences with other serious psychonauts, it's evident that these newspaper articles and leaflets often contain very faulty and deficient factual information, and moreover contains actual disinformation, which ought to be considered criminal. Many people claim that ecstasy can harm the brain and that it's taxing for the body. The studies used to substantiate these claims are primarily experiments on rats, where rats have been given extremely high doses of ecstasy every day. This corresponds to human beings drinking 10 to 12 bottles of whiskey every day or more. Such studies are out of touch with reality. As mentioned earlier, I've experimented with high doses of ecstasy, always spread over long periods of time. During a single week, I once took 21 ecstasy trips and have never experienced any other side effects than a little tiredness afterwards. May the 22nd, 1999. Dear reader, at first glance, this perhaps seems to be a strange place to shift focus to present day. But it seems necessary because writing this book is a process of self-clarification for me. As mentioned earlier, I experienced that I have 4 big life gestalts. 1. The work gestalt. 2. The home gestalt. 3. The love gestalt. And most importantly, 4. The spirituality gestalt. This gestalt was accomplished in the summer of 1994. I worked on the work gestalt within Bloom, and as I'm relating right now, I also worked energetically with the home gestalt. As mentioned earlier, my life's most challenging gestalt, astrologically Pluto-Uranus square Venus, is connected with love. It is this gestalt that I'm struggling with as I write this. My current girlfriend, Tina, and I are in a big crisis, and at the moment our relationship is on hold for several reasons. Last Thursday, the 20th of May 1999, I suddenly became very sick. I had terrible pains in my body, and my eyes and ears and throat were infected. Illness is primarily something psychological, I know that. What was this illness trying to tell me? Last night I had the following dream. My house. The dream has a theme that upon closer examination seems connected with this book, chewing gum in my teeth. I dream that I'm walking around in my house. It's winter and my house is extraordinarily huge. I hadn't realised its magnitude. I realise that it's a gigantic estate of undreamed of proportions. It's very beautiful. It's a couple of centuries old, but has been beautifully refurbished from time to time, so it's in good condition. The snow is several metres high, and the roof of the house is wrapped in a layer of transparent plastic. A house expert advises me to remove the plastic to allow the house to breathe. I then begin to tear down the plastic and shovel away the snow. The result is that the water gushes out of and down the house. Water often symbolises the unconscious. In the next central event, I'm walking around inspecting the house. I have some chewing gum in my mouth, which is unusually sticky, and it's so hard on my teeth that it tears several of them loose. Especially if a pair of side fangs are so loose, they can easily be taken out and put back in. Concerning my trip on the 12th of May 1995, the seed of life. Bo and I start in my back garden, the wood. We walk around, talk and enjoy nature, not least the old tall fully grown beech trees and the birds' love serenades, with whom they now collect grubs and beetles for their offspring, who reside in their nests with eyes closed in their tender start in life. We find a good tree and start a bonfire beside it. It starts to rain, so we walk back to my place at around 1 a.m, where we feel that we have landed, which is really strange, because we, especially I, have by then feasted on our psychedelic food with great appetite. I think that perhaps we landed so early because I tripped a little earlier this week and could be developing tolerance. This is evidently the case. We therefore take some more psychedelic drugs, psilocybin mushrooms, light the stove and listen to some music. Suddenly, it's as if all the psychedelic drugs I've ever taken, not a small amount, take effect all at once. I sit with my back to the wall, sky high, my penis totally stiff and unfolded. I'm unable to move from the spot. While I sit there practicing my tantric yoga exercises with my back completely straight, slightly supported by the wall, my legs in a half lotus, my eyes closed and my penis in my left hand, I have a really great experience. My penis turns into the control stick of my spacecraft. I experience that the penis is a true joystick. Psychedelic drugs open up to one's own adventure or fairy tale. Instead of integrating into a computer world with a plastic joystick, powerful psychedelic drugs make you the hero of your own life. I'm being catapulted into intergalactic space, where with my control stick I fly around among clusters of stars, in and out of black and white holes. It's like a big game, a mighty dance that delights my soul and propels me into joyous euphoria of cosmic dimensions. Goan Kyuzuk, a kind of Master Yoda, now makes his entrance. He introduces himself as the spiritual master of the Galactic Council. He says that a space station will be installed inside my head. In time, this will enable me to access the archives of the Galactic Council and attain direct communication with even the remotest solar systems of our galaxy. He tells me to build my home as a cosmic archetypal energy system, a timeless advanced space station. He gives me comprehensive and exact architectural plans and tells me that it will take me 12 years to complete. Every year I'm to work through a gestalt in the garden, the big house and the little house, the temple. My home, Floral Butterfly Land, will also function as a Noah's Ark, a paradisiacal oasis in flatland. He emphasizes that it's very important that I build homes for a multitude of different animals and plants and ensure that there's plenty of food and water for everyone. As the space station is built, I'll learn the language of the animals and plants. They are all powerful allies. After traveling in intergalactic space for an eternity, a voice tells me that now it's time to be incarnated. I think of the great master, Saturn's return to his departure point, the position of the planet at the time of birth. Astrologically, this is a time when I'm born and truly arrive on Earth. This is precisely what I experience. I have visions of the lines of the universe, a gigantic coordinate system unfolding before my eyes. From intergalactic space, I travel towards the specific coordinate system that will contain me in this incarnation. From intergalactic space to the Milky Way, to our solar system, to Earth, to Scandinavia, to my hometown, to Paradise Street 111. Clonk. There I sit in my room, grounded, down to earth, stronger than ever before. I know that it's a cosmic plan that I should live in this house. After returning from intergalactic space, I get the following message from ASOS. One of the most important keys to the universe is the law that you are the master of your own life. The secret is the creative power of thoughts and visions. Your thoughts and visualizations sow seeds which you can give more or less nourishment. In accordance with your ability to think, act and visualize, these seeds sprout proportionally to the nourishment they get. And now, my dear friend, you're perhaps beginning to understand that the mind is boundless. Everything is possible. Some seeds become grass, others become flowers, some become bushes, and others trees whose arms stretch far into heaven. Some need 2 months to be fully grown, others decades. The most important thing is to sow the right seeds and give them sufficient nourishment. People who astrologically have the sun in an earth sign or have the earth sign strongly represented in their birth chart have especially good possibilities of understanding one essential thing, the elements of fairy tale in everyday life. We human beings live here on earth, not in a purely ethereal world. We're able to travel to ethereal worlds in our consciousness, but that's not where we're incarnated. All that we do, from washing socks and going shopping to playing music and meditating, is in the deepest sense spiritual development. It only takes 2 things: awareness in the here and now, and to follow life's spontaneous flow 100%. I now realize what has happened to me, what has triggered all my spontaneous transpersonal experiences. which by now I have quite a few of without psychedelic drugs. It's a kind of Kundalini awakening. Everything fits. I can become a Buddha if I want to, and I do. We can all become Buddhas or enlightened masters if we want. Do we want to? I read through my keywords to my inner landscape and my positive self-affirmations, goals and visions. Yes, the seed looks healthy, the sprouting is well on its way, and many seeds have already made deep vital roots. I draw 2 tarot cards from Crowley's deck and get the Devil, the card with a control stick, and the Magician. Then follow other lesser but important revelations. I intuitively see that I must buy the house for 888,888 kroner and 88 øre. The down payment must be 77,777 kroner and 77 øre. The numbers will be a blessing. I intuitively feel that I should take over the house on the 7th of September 1995, on the 11th anniversary of my crash. This will be a healthy way of closing the circle. It's clear to me that the most important thing is that I act and think as if the house is mine, because it is mine. I see the whole house, the temple with the studio, the garden, everything in a clear, unfolded vision. The place is blessed and simply lovely. There are stacks of firewood here, boxes for birds' nests there, rose bushes, paths and a little pond. I see myself tearing down the old rotten shed, expanding the building a little there, laying flower beds, planting a lot of trees, a round hall, an extension of the studio, a building, a balcony here, a tower, an elf castle, a pavilion, a tribune, a subterranean meditation chamber, and a stage among the trees, etc. My vision is clear. That is essential, but also the paradox of life. On the one hand, we must have a clear vision of what we want, to gain direction in life. On the other hand, we must simply follow the flow of life. But such is the nature of the universe, paradoxical and mysterious. This we have to respectively contain and realize. I realize that I must have order in my life on all levels. I have visions of everything from all my folders with tax papers, music, lecture series, seminars, workshops, etc., to the arrangement of the house and garden, etc. The more my affairs are in order, the more free energy I have. The world we live in is damned complex, and to a great extent we have to play according to the rules. However, my dear reader, I must confess that sometimes the bureaucratic system we live under makes me feel sick. I receive 3 to 4 letters every day with stuff I have to do something about. Is this really necessary? I came out of this trip with a deep certainty that the house was mine, but as mentioned, the situation seemed pretty critical, to put it mildly, because no building society would approve me. However, the trip gave me the key to the solution of the problem. I started to simply see the house and garden as mine. Every time I had doubts, I simply dug a little extra in the earth, put up some shelves, tidied up meticulously, or made other little improvements. On Tuesday the 23rd of May 1995, I had a powerful experience as I lay in the sun. I was asleep and dreamed that my youngest little sister died twice. I was in deep despair and woke up dissolved in tears. The pressure was enormous these days because the 1st of June was approaching speedily and I was at a complete loss. But deep inside I felt that it was my place. The night between Wednesday and Thursday, the 24th to 25th of May 1995, I was lying in bed with Bolette. I had told her part of my life story, especially the period from 1984 to 1988. Suddenly it happened again. 6. The world of the dead. I'm spinning round and round, more and more powerfully. I'm sucked deep down or into a gigantic maelstrom, and end up in the world where we go when we die. There are beings everywhere. The intense reality of the experience is frightening. It feels like Bolette is with me. I don't know how she's handling it. I wonder if perhaps she's meeting her dead brother out here. I return from the world of the dead and ask her if she's with me in these experiences. She isn't. I tell her what I experience. I still feel all the beings as if the world of the dead is just on top of our world. Everything's drifting around. After that, I have a powerful release of tears. On the 28th of May 1995, I was buying bread in a bakery when my old bass player from the trio I played with back in 1983 walked in. I hadn't seen him since then. He'd become an estate agent and had been very successful. Now he wanted to open a cafe, so he was stopping as an estate agent on June the 1st. I said that he had to come to my place that very day because I wanted to talk to him about my house buying project. As sent from heaven, he came by in the afternoon and looked at everything. He thought the house looked really good. It needed some refurbishing, but the location was very good, so it should be a fine investment. He told me that I could restructure some of the loans in the house, which would reduce my extra expenses considerably. Now things look much more reasonable. I called my accountant and gave him the new figures over the phone. He sent me the new calculations on the 30th of May 1995. That same day, I went to my old bank advisor, who seemed to be my absolutely last chance of saving the situation. He was friendly and said, at a cursory look, the numbers looked okay, but of course he would have to take a closer look. By now, my landlord wanted an answer, and I said that everything was going fine, although I didn't really know anything, and that everything would be in order shortly. And then it was June. The 9th of June 1995. Today I've cast the cornerstone of the little house, the temple, into the foundation. It's a circular amethyst cut through so it's flat and smooth. Sophia and I found it in an occult bookshop on Odin's Day, Wednesday the 7th of June 1995. Now it's cast in the centre of the mandala in the floor of the temple. The stone symbolises the centre of the world, the centre of the universe, and the navel of our estates. Under the stone, I've cast the following holy power objects: a leaf from the temple's datura tree, a leaf from a paradise apple tree, which has roots way back in my childhood, a stone from an Iron Age castle in Ireland, a stone from Bava, found in the garden, a stone from Sophia, also from the garden, flowers and leaves from Bava from the garden, flowers and leaves from Sophia, a big beautiful sterling psilocybin mushroom from my foreign friend, 12 hemp seeds from my own crop, pot from Bava's plant, a cone from my talking stick found by Sophie and me in the Gribskov forest in the summer of 1993, a tape with music recorded in the temple, hair from Bava, Sophia and me. While I consecrate the stone, I have a feeling that Sophia and Bava are around me in their dream bodies. Several times I hear their voices so clearly that I call them, but they are sound asleep in our bed. Dream, the 14th of June 1995. The playhouse on poles in the lake. I dreamed that the playhouse in the garden rests on poles at the edge of some water in a public but out-of-the-way place. It's very unpleasant that people can go in and out of the house as they want. I don't know if I can have the place in peace. Interpretations and associations. The playhouse symbolises my house buying project, which is still tottering and uncertain. It's mine, but nevertheless public, because I'm not yet its owner. The summer passed, my erotic friendship with Willetta ended, and I still have no definite answer from the bank. I told my landlord that everything was going according to plan, and it would take a little more time. I practiced with the band, went to the forest and meditated, played in the garden with the kids, dug in the ground, and went on a little holiday which I really needed. At the end of July and beginning of August, I went on a canoe trip with Sophia, George, and a couple of good female friends. The Butterfly Caterpillar. The 5th of August 1995. We've been paddling around in the mythic region of Småland in Sweden. The weather is divine, sunny, very hot, with a few beautiful clouds, and a single thundershower so powerful and violent the local people say they haven't seen anything like it as far back as they can remember. We live on an island where Sophia finds a lot of rock crystals. Some of us adults embark on a low-dosage psychedelic trip. In my notebook I write, "My penis is free. My life is free. My life is successful and good on all levels. All parameters are set." The last night I have a long and deep talk with George. We talk about many things, including our roles in this incarnation, in this world, about the responsibility that has been laid upon us, about the deep feeling I have of being a tribal chief and what duties, responsibilities and strength and joy this implicates. I feel that I have arrived. I know what I have to do and act accordingly. I am where I'm supposed to be. We talk about the land of the Nocturnal Butterfly and all its significances. The next day we arrive at the last stop of the canoe trip and I have a very strange and wonderful experience. Sophia sits beneath a tree playing. She asks what is lying in front of her. It's a big butterfly caterpillar. The next moment 2 caterpillars fall on top of her. And then for the next 2 minutes 30 to 40 caterpillars rain down and immediately crawl away. 2 minutes later they're all gone. Some of the other friends from the group arrive too late to see them. I go into ecstasy, a highly favourable sign from above. I now know the house is mine. I take a few caterpillars with me home and put them out in the garden. Monday the 7th of August 1995, I received my answer from the bank. My application was successful. Extreme jubilation. That same night I had an experience that I'll never forget. Mess and the tree. Charlie has a good friend who would like to be initiated into the mysteries of the psychonaut. I consent, and in the evening we cycle out to my place in the wood where there's a view of the lake. We take some ecstasy trips and have some wonderful hours together, talking, drumming and singing. During the landing, the 2 aspirants take a swim in the lake. After coming back up, they want to climb up in the big full-grown beech tree next to us. I doubt that it's a good idea. 4 years earlier, I had sat for 2 hours waiting for the lead singer from the band The Universe to climb down from a tree. However, he had taken LSD and the 2 aspirants have only taken ecstasy, and they seemed reasonably landed. They climb the tree and I sit down to meditate. Charlie's friend climbs all the way to the top of the tree, which is about 30 to 35 metres tall, and sits there naked, drumming in the starry night. It seems like a shamanistic initiation ritual. Time passes and my meditation reaches a climax when I suddenly hear something heavy falling from the tree. I hear it fall from branch to branch until finally it lands on the ground with a big thud. I stop breathing. About 10 seconds later I hear Charlie shout, "Life! Mass has fallen from the tree!" I jump to my feet and run to the tree to see Mess lying on the ground. He has a bump on his head and some scratches on his body, but apart from that he looked unharmed. He's unconscious but lies moaning on the ground. I cycle to the nearest forestry worker cabin and get them to call an ambulance. When the paramedics arrive to pick up Mess, he's on his way back up the tree. The next day, Mess is on his feet again. He has a splitting headache, but is otherwise unharmed. It almost seems like a miracle. He was carried down from the top of the tree. Mess doesn't remember anything. The last thing he remembers is sitting in the tree, enjoying the magnificent view of the wood and the clear starry night. The next thing he remembers is waking up at the hospital, not understanding what has happened. Some weeks later, he happened to see a book about a shaman who had his initiation crisis after a 65-metre-long fall down a slope. Yes, Mess got his opening here. Since then, I have deeply respected trees, and I hope that you do too. If you're interested in psychedelic drugs, don't mix the two. Lesson: don't climb trees if you've taken psychedelic drugs. However, life is dangerous. 1 week later, my ex-wife was cycling with Bava and a branch got caught in the spokes of a wheel, so that she fell from the bicycle and had a concussion. Unlike Mess, she was permanently injured and had to stop studying because she couldn't concentrate on reading. Her short-term memory was severely affected for a year, and even today her short-term memory is not what it used to be. What's the universe trying to tell here? The 7th of September 1995. Today I have become a house owner. I can hardly fathom it. It's a lovely sunny Thursday. Today it's 11 years since I was struck by lightning. It blew my mind, threw me headlong into the greatest of all seas, the infinitely deep ocean of consciousness, from where only a chosen few return from the greatest depths. I received a task that I had to solve, a treasure that I had to find. If I didn't accomplish this task, I would perish and never return. The task was, you have to find yourself. The treasure was, myself. I've travelled in countless countries and different worlds, constantly seeking everywhere I went. I have fought dragons and all possible monsters, talked with sages, wizards, warriors, psychonauts, fools and madmen, plus other different creatures from near and far in inner and outer space. Now, after so much roaming, I have finally come home, all the way home. I have arrived to myself, to my place. A circle has closed and a new one is about to begin. I'm in a new departure point in my life. I cut a long plait of my hair today as a symbol of all this. The outermost end of my plait grew out from my scalp when Sophia was born. The other end grew out when I bought my house.